welcome. Very pleased to see you here today. What we're talking about is really how Canada is stepping up the payments capability and how we can make best use of those. Obviously, we're seeing changing customer demands, including a rapid move to digital payments. There's a lot of domestic and international regulatory changes and technical advancements, really reshaping the way the Canadians can make and receive payments. Today, I'm joined by a select panel to discuss how we can help the businesses, consumers, and partners navigate their way through the myriad of changes that are taking place through payments modernization. We're going to discuss how we can help our customers, our users, to revitalize, optimize, innovate, grow, and focus on their payment needs using the new capabilities that are coming to the payments market. As the recent Fiserv annual payment service has shown, there's been a marked transition over the last sort of 12, 18 months from really focusing on how to implement the regulatory change, how to implement the demands around instant and data-rich payments, towards, how do we help customers integrate these new capabilities into their own payment flows and improve the experience of all of their users. So joining me today are a handpicked panel of experts, including Sue. Sue's the Vice President of Payments, Strategy and Relationships at Central One, responsible for modernizing Central One's payment services and mapping out the future payment strategy. Martin is Senior Director of Banking Products and Payments Modernization at Desjardins. Martin is a financial services professional with extensive experience in product management and team leadership in the digital transformation environment. And last but definitely not least is Derek. Derek is Head of Treasury and Product Management, Corporate Cards, Commercial Deposits and Payments Modernization at BMO Financial Group, probably the only person here with a longer title than myself. So Derek is really defining and executing BMO's North American commercial payments and modernization strategy and roadmap. He also currently serves as the industry co-chair of the Industry Delivery Steering Committee, supporting Payment Canada's modernization program. So I have a number of questions that I'm going to be putting to this esteemed panel. And I guess I'll start saying that, alongside Payments Canada, it's the financial institutions and their partners who are really enabling the new payments capabilities to support this new world for payment users. Derek, maybe I could ask that apart from instant payments, or as we call it in Canada, RTR, what are some of the new capabilities that are being developed, and what sort of impact do you see them having and expect them to have for the actual users of payment systems?
Thanks, David, and great to be here. It's a great question. I know much of the focus at the summit is going to be on real-time or instant payments, but there's a lot of other innovation happening in the areas of working capital management and payments more generally. So maybe I'll first comment on some guiding principles, which kind of informs how we are prioritizing a lot of our new capability enablement. So of course, it always starts with listening to our clients and responding to their needs. We're very focused on leveraging the investments that we've been making on data enabling the payment rails, which, as most of us know, is one of the biggest drivers of payments modernization. And building on top of this infrastructure is the important need to kind of drive enhanced value add, convenience, and efficiencies for businesses of all sizes. And, we're also very laser focused on enhancing the end-to-end client experience. And, the employee experience is also equally important. But being mindful, to also foster inclusiveness and full ecosystem participation, that's really, really important. And it's what's going to enable and create a lot of new and exciting innovative partnerships and solutions that address the needs of all of our clients. So with that context, maybe I'll just provide a few examples of some of the priorities that we're looking at beyond real-time and instant payments. Investing in and expanding the channels by which we exchange payments and ISO data with our clients and industry participants is definitely a top priority for us. For example, continuing to expand our commercial API offerings, which enables much easier integration and allows clients who have invested in ERP systems to get a much higher ROI and more utility out of those investments, and to take advantage of the automated flows and reconcilement and straight through processing that delivers. And when you think about this work and the advancement of digital ID, these are very critical, important foundational elements and building blocks that are going to pave the way for the advancement of open banking, as an example. We are continuing to prepare for and looking forward to being able to offer 24/7 payment processing. It's really, really important, and we're starting to hear more demand for that from our clients. And that's going to enable clients, ultimately to transact whenever and wherever they choose, which is really exciting. Maybe I'll just speak for a moment about ISO 20022, because I really believe that we're still at the infancy stage of its development and capability. We've been working on some recent advancements in this space, and I do think it's a great example of where we all need to work together to drive more adoption. Soon we'll have high-value payments supporting ISO with the MX implementation coming in the fall, and with RTR, release 1 will launch with ISO capabilities. And I think many of us know that these capabilities are going to deliver incredible value for clients of all sizes, from cash flow and liquidity benefits, due to the irrevocable nature of these payments, and the STP and reconcilement benefits that the enhanced remittance and invoice data will bring. And maybe finally, there's a number of fraud and risk control initiatives that we're focused on, and I know the industry is focused on. We have to carefully balance kind of the friction that these can introduce, but also with our collective objective of ensuring safety and soundness, and to promote, more consumer and business confidence in these new rails. So I couldn't be more excited about what we've already achieved as a collective, but also recognize that we're just at the beginning, with so many great things to come.
Thank you for that, Derek. I think that's really interesting to see the potential for the way that your customers, the FI's customers, interact. And obviously, I think there will be different benefits for different types of customers. So, Martin, maybe I could ask you, what do you see as the main benefits to your customers, and what do you see as some of the big challenges for adopting some of the new capabilities that Derek was highlighting?
Yes, thank you, David. Well, like you said, Derek mentioned a lot of those benefits. I think right off the bat, just the speed of payment and ubiquity is something I think that would make a difference. We've been talking about that for years now, but I think the consumers and entrepreneurs, they will be, I think they will feel the real benefits of that. So meaning that, consumers and entrepreneurs will be deciding when payment will take place without having to worry if payment will be made on time. So differently said, power will be given to the end user, not having to deal with, the current payment schedules that they have to deal with today. So it's kind of complicated for them. I think it's going to be easier down the road. But for me, David, the real game changer is really the availability of payment information to the end user. And starting with something very simple, just having the information with the payment, not having to call your branch, to call, calling the call center to get the information, and sometimes waiting for days to get the information back. That's for me, really to have the information at their fingertips. That really, for me, that's a big improvement. The other thing is really automation of task. Something you were talking, Derek, about invoicing. I think just the low value task. You can imagine the time and money that would be saved by entrepreneurs with the system that will, because the information will flow into the payment system and will enable the entrepreneurs to save some time. So for me, that's really great value that we will be adding. But really, with standardized information, this will allow interoperability and support various use cases. Today, we still propose ways of payment in silos. I think with RTP, I think the stars will finally be aligned to support a greater number of use cases, because today we support so many use cases, but after you want to make a payment over that amount, there's always a fallback plan, which is called check, right? So I think with that, with the RTP, with the proper infrastructure, we'll be able to do something and really to match those business needs of our customers. And I was, thinking about the question, and one of the things that I found very interesting a few years back, I was working into the commercial card space, and I was kind of thinking about that and saying, well, my God, we were trying to sell cards to entrepreneurs, to corporation, trying to make a payment, but sometimes there was always something, right? There was information wasn't there, or the cost of the transaction was just too high. So for me, it's like we're kind of creating a perfect storm of having all the information. You can imagine what we can automate and get rid of the, lower maybe the cost. So I think at the right cost, we will be able to do a lot of a lot of great things. We will have all the tools, I think, in the toolbox to make sure we can make electronic payments more accessible to everybody. To the second part of your question, well, of course, we're going to have challenge. There's nothing is easy. We have to change as financial institution our sales pitch. Talk about more experiences, customer journeys, more than products and technology. I think that's the first thing. So we have to change the language we're using. I said it before, but supporting more use cases. So today it's like we're kind of supporting just so many use cases. Upgrade security system. I think Derek, you mentioned it as well. We have to make sure that the payment is fluid, the transaction, and there's no, like I said, over a certain amount, you have to go to another mean of payment. So for me, that's really important. Education as well. I think we need to do work together. So education, changing the way, because we're going to have to change and educate people, entrepreneurs, the way they work, the way they see their business processes, their systems. So it's going to be a real challenge. And I think we mentioned collaboration between stakeholders, governments, financial institutions, fintechs, because things will not happen overnight. We've seen it in other jurisdictions, just like in UK. I was reading the other day about Australia. So I think we're gonna have to collaborate. We're all competitors on the day-to-day basis, but I think we have to collaborate to make sure that we are building the ecosystem and not just building payment products.
That's very, very interesting. Thank you, Martin. Was really interested when you talked about some of the other jurisdictions who are already at a later stage in terms of the implementation of instant payments. And we are seeing, instant payments becoming the norm for all payment types. But working globally, I do see that there is a bit of friction. The usage of instant payments is really being held back a bit due to things like lack of ubiquitous business services, what we call overlay services, such as request to pay. The fact that there isn't a standard set of open APIs, open banking APIs, or even direct access to bank accounts. So maybe, Sarah, I could ask you a little bit around how do you see those sort of issues being addressed in Canada, and what sort of resolution do you see to those sort of problems that we are seeing elsewhere?
Yeah, thanks, David. And my colleagues have both done a really nice job kind of double clicking on the fact this panel is not about details of delivery. This panel is around the massive change management exercise that we're all going on, that this is an ecosystem transformation that needs to take place. I remark with interest that as you do look around the world and see faster payments regimes that have been implemented elsewhere, many of them were initially driven by a regulator. And it feels a little bit like you can lead the horse to water, but to really get that horse drinking and really start to have a ecosystem benefit, you need a bunch of ingredients to be in place that regulators on their own can't deliver. And it's one of the remarkable things about this Canadian initiative is how broad the participation is in trying to think through what are all those friction points, what are the catalysts or enablers. And I agree with both my colleagues that this isn't just a competitive exercise around enabling a bunch of new tools. This is, if we lock arms, stakeholders and financial institutions and regulators and our customers, we need to help them understand those value propositions. So when I think about request for payment, it's a fantastic business service that has the opportunity to deliver great value for merchants and billing. We spend a lot of time thinking about merchants because many credit union customers, of course, are merchants, and we manage a large biller database on their behalf. We are using a system that's in the market today for request for payment. It's been available for a few years. So even when you have these capabilities, the important thing is to drive the behavior change, to articulate the value proposition in a way that's meaningful for the end user. And it's this journey of modernization going from what I call plumbing to value that we're going to be on for 3 to 5 years. And you know, I think the one thing we around this table have an opportunity to do, because we're so close to what these systems are and what they can do, and because we're watching what's happening elsewhere in the world, is we can be drivers and leaders. And we need to be open to, first of all, incredible communication, which may be not our strong suit in all cases, but also creating the value stories, as Martin said so well, around this isn't a box or a product or a thing. This is a new experience. And we don't get new experiences the first 10 times they're explained to us. So we have to recognize this is payments. It's not known for change. And we need to help guide and bring our customers along and articulate things in a way that is meaningful for them. And we also need to get out there and experiment and partner and find different ways of doing things ourselves, take ourselves out of our comfort zone and actually, push the boundaries. There's no holding back, in my opinion, in Canada around open APIs. I think most of us are out there exploring that, delivering that, providing new interaction models with our customer. And when we hit on a value that they appreciate and they know about it, then we'll see that usage start to climb. And we will see the emergence of overlay service providers, I think, in the Canadian market, who appreciate where that pent-up demand is. And we need to be open to lead with them to deliver that value.
Very, very interesting. Thank you, Sue. I'd like to sort of pick up on something that Derek raised, which was the need to be inclusive. Obviously, modernization, as we've talked about it, we've talked about open APIs, we've talked about instant, we've talked about overlay services such as request to pay. It's really around focusing on enabling a frictionless digital payment journey via sort of direct account to account mechanisms. Maybe Martin, I could ask you, given that sort of focus, how are we focusing on how we're ensuring that those who are, don't have access to digital devices or are not as digitally as aware as some of us, how are we ensuring that they're not further disenfranchised as we modernize the payment systems?
Yeah.
I know it's a hard question, so
Yes, but it's a
forgive
good
me for
question
that.
at the same time, and you know, I think we need to make sure we don't forget anybody behind. So again, collaboration for me is still the key. We are many there are many stakeholders into the ecosystem, and I think we have to work together. First of all, the governments. I think they have to be the enablers in all of this. Just the because if we want to, people that are maybe less fortunate, we have to make sure they have access to it. First of all, they need to have access to the technology, right? And sometimes it's hard for them because of lower revenues, because of different reasons. So I was just thinking about the recent announcement by the federal government, just partnering with telcos to offer high speed access to low income families and seniors at $20 per month. So that's just that's really that's the basics, but we need to start somewhere, right? So this should say that's just an example, that what governments can do to make sure that the less fortunate have access to technology and of course to electronic payment, the way we would propose it through payments modernization. Um, the other thing is really FIs. I think we have a mission in making sure new payments methods are accessible, understood to all segments of the population. Like we said earlier, we have to talk about experience. What's in it for me, as a user. So why should I make electronic payments instead of using a check or going to the ABM and withdrawing cash? So really, I think there's an educational mission that must be part of our way of doing business. Like supporting the less fortunate clients to turn the corner must be integrated into our business plan. Um, and I was thinking about it when I started in the banking business in the late '90s, and we were making sure that seniors will go to the ABM machine instead of doing the transactions at the tellers. So for me, it's just a different way, different time, right? But we have to do it, and I think it's feasible. And we just have to offer the right support. And I was thinking again with my mom. She started from not using a phone a few years ago to like now doing all the transactions online, and she will not go back. And she's 77, right? So I think with the proper amount of support, I think we'll be able to make a difference. And use, like I said it earlier, but the language we use have to be different and user oriented. Less talking about payments products, more how to use tools to answer their needs. Uh, so that's what, like I said, the what's in it for them. Put technology aside for a moment and just talk about what they can do with payments. So the real benefits.
That's really good to hear, and I totally agree. We do tend to focus on those wonderful technical terms, and I'm probably the worst talking about APIs and ISO and instant. But you're absolutely spot on. It's really how do we talk in a way that provides that understanding of how the payment is actually made, why it's easier to maybe put your thumb on the touch sensor of a mobile device than trying to get a card or cash or coins out of a wallet or to make those payments. So, Martin, thank you for that. Derek, I've got a couple of questions around the environment. You talked a bit about collaboration and ensuring that there's an environment that helps with innovation. Really sort of following on from Martin's point, how do we ensure that end users are really aware of the new payment capabilities, and how they can build those into their own business processes, to support those, we call it the commerce interaction or the business interaction, the way they interact with each other, the way they interact with consumers.
Yeah, and my answer, I think, will kind of dovetail what my colleagues have already said to some extent. We're all very much aligned, which is great. We're being collaborative. So, a really smart boss once told me that, I know Sue mentioned 10 times, and we use kind of 7. We need to tell people 7 ways and 7 times for messages to kind of land. It's kind of something that's always stuck to me as we think about change management. So, I'll just double down on education and awareness. I think that's key to accelerating adoption of any new capabilities that we're going to introduce. And that's if we introduce it individually, if we introduce it as an industry. We just really need to think about the end user and how these messages are landing. And I don't think it's up to one institution. It's all of our responsibility to do this together. Industry, regulators, big tech, fintech, incumbents, new players, like we all need to make sure that we're educating users on the benefits, ensure that we're always striving to make things simple, easy to adopt. That's within our control to some extent. Raising awareness must happen at all levels of the organization as well, that we're talking to, from the CIO to the CEO to the CFO, because it matters to all of them. We need to also, back to the point around, we have to be fully inclusive and think about full participation, because the more we're thinking about it in those broad ways, that's going to drive further and further adoption, in my view. So kind of at an industry level, we need to continue to focus on marketing, kind of the introduction of some of these new capabilities, especially in areas where we don't necessarily compete. There's industry agnostic ways to market the main features and benefits that are going to be made available, by all of us to all of us. I've seen some great examples in the media, from CDIC to Interact to MasterCard, using their brand and different forms of media to really get the message out there. And, I know Payments Canada has also been very keen to work together with industry stakeholders on direct education programs that can boost kind of, on one hand, the confidence in adopting some of these new capabilities, but also just, continuing to leverage, what each of us are building individually and collectively to maximize the benefit. And kind of at an institutional level, I think we have to just continue to focus on educating clients about the tailored offerings and the benefits that can be achieved, showcasing kind of client-specific examples or industry-specific or vertical kind of use cases. I know it's something that we do, if we're meeting with an insurance company, let's talk about other insurance companies like you and what they've been able to do and how they've been able, not mentioning names, of course, but just to kind of talk about how certain technologies or certain use cases could advance the customer experience, advance their efficiencies and other benefits that can showcase for them, because that kind of brings it to life. Back to the point around plumbing, I think we're all very good at talking about plumbing because we're involved in a lot of the delivery, but really need to transition now beyond plumbing and really think about the ways that which clients can benefit. I think I heard Sue mention kind of proof of concept is another great and powerful way of exploring and showcasing capabilities. I think we can do more of those. You asked about kind of transitioning businesses from old to new, and it's a hard thing. Behaviors are ingrained, both customer behaviors, but even banking behaviors are also ingrained. And similar to bringing awareness to some of these new capabilities, I think there's multiple levers that we also need to think about when transitioning clients to these new solutions. Back to, one of my themes is around simplification. We need to make it easy. Whatever we can do kind of behind the curtain and shield our clients from having to engage their IT departments and make things happen, I think is something that we should collectively think through and do. Kind of ease clients into some of these new capabilities through the experience itself, integrating it into the channel and those channels that are already connected to some of the legacy payment capabilities, kind of use that and try and change those behaviors and make it easier to switch, if I can use that term. Switch, not, I'll define that, switching payment capabilities. That's what I meant. Got to be very clear, otherwise someone's going to jump on that. And then finally, around education, which I've already mentioned and my colleagues have mentioned, for both clients and our frontline employees, to ensure that the benefit and the value of these new capabilities is well understood. And something else that I heard is speak in language that our clients understand, not in plumbing. Like, this is about improving cash flow. It's about stronger risk controls. It's about operational efficiencies. It's about straight through processing. That's the language that our customers will understand, and that's what we need to be making sure collectively we're doing 7 ways and 7 times.
Yeah, I certainly couldn't agree with you more. It is a language thing when we're talking to the users of these systems. They want to know how these capabilities fit into their processes. And I think that's something interesting, Sue, that you mentioned earlier, was that we're moving to provide these services on a 24/7 by 365 basis. And I know the traditional businesses are not going to want to operate in that 24/7 world. They'll still have their normal business day. But it does mean that they can perform their payment activities to match their own business flows, their own business timings. Maybe you could sort of highlight some of the challenges that you have and the organization has to provide these new services, new capabilities on what we now call a never down basis.
This is our canary in a coal mine. Let's address it. We all know consumers, businesses, all of our customers have very high expectations and immediacy of needs. And we've all been on that journey for a while now of making sure that we have someone there to be able to answer a phone or to hold a transaction when a bad fraud score comes in, or just keep the lights on and be responsive when a call comes into the call center that reverberates through an organization. So the demand is clearly there. On the supply side, this is, for some organizations, Herculean. And I just want to spend a minute explaining some of the realities for the smaller customer as well as the smaller financial institution. And we at Central One, we are a regulated financial institution who services over 200 regulated financial institutions. And I can transparently tell you that there is a segment of our clientele who is not capable of operating on a 24/7, 365 basis today. And getting them on the journey to being able to do that is probably the biggest challenge that we face in the credit union system, because we don't want those valued financial institutions being left behind. And customers choose their credit union for a lot of reasons, some of which are very heartfelt. And so it's incumbent on us to, like we have to take care of every Canadian and make sure they're participants in payments and financial services, it's equally incumbent on my group to bring all of our clientele along. And they aren't built that way. So we have a number of tools, much like a small business isn't built that way. And so we have to catch up to this new pace of life. We have to look for technology solutions. We're absolutely looking at collaboration models and some shifting around the roles and responsibilities that we might play compared to, say, some of our customers in order to help them through a change. But we have to be mindful that expectations won't be met overnight. They can't be. And we will all just do our best to meet them and respond by delivering the best we can in the moment and move on from there. As I look around the world at other markets, there's lots of precedent for people taking a bit of time to get to the golden end state. And we sadly probably have a small segment of our credit unions who will take a while to get there because they're not wired to be able to operate in that way. And frankly, many of them don't have customers who expect that. For those credit unions that do have customers that expect it, they're out there like gangbusters, doing all the things that you need to do to be able to support the new reality. And for several of them, it's a significant investment and a reorientation of all of your internal processes to be able to serve this brave new world. So we're working with the Canary. And I think I can't help thinking that that next year at this time, we'll have some wins under our belt. We'll have some great successes. We'll have some new exciting overlays emerging. And we'll still have some entities that are having growing pains. And it'll be our job as a system to figure out how to help them make the change because it is our new reality. And I don't think any small financial institution or small business would want to hold up the system. And so it's you can't say enough about how big this is. You just can't. So anyhow, that's probably all I need to say about us and our little canary problem.
Thank you for sharing that, Sue. That's, I'll always remember the canary now. So thank you for that. I know we've only got a few minutes left in the session, so I'd like to sort of pick up on something that all of you have been highlighting, which is the cooperation. As part of the time I've had at SAC, I see that cooperation is a key requirement across the whole of the industry and the payment users to ensure that we get the capabilities that we've talked about, not only out there, but actually being used and really getting the potential of them from for the making of payments. Maybe I could just quickly go around the three of you, and maybe you could give me a few words about the cooperation you're seeing, and if you where there are areas where you'd like to see more cooperation. Martin, maybe I could start with you.
Oh, David, I think we said it, but I think, with payments modernization, we have a lot of, deliveries and milestones that we have to meet, but it doesn't end there. So we need to continue working together, like all the stakeholders together, to make sure that the ecosystem is growing, that, we're kind of getting back all the benefits we were hoping for when we started to talk about payment modernization a few years ago. For me, that's really, for me, like the sentence is really, doesn't end there. We have to still work together to make sure it's working, and it's going to be it's a long shot, right? It's a long process to get there, but I think the benefits are huge, both for all stakeholders, starting with the end users. So.
Yeah, maybe I'll add.
Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe I'll add. So first of all, we're very fortunate, David, to have you in the chair at SAC. I think there's some great things that under your leadership that are moving forward, and we on behalf of the industry, we appreciate that. I wholeheartedly agree that it's going to take continued strong collaboration. That's critical to ensure that these capabilities continue to be delivered and adopted well. There are lots of examples that I can point to. Like Martin said, payments modernization, the program itself, there's a ton of great examples of the way we've collaborated to get stuff done. And we've been successful to date, and we've delivered, I would say, a robust set of new payments infrastructure and enhanced policies and rules and requirements, and there's so much more to come. Another great example that comes to mind is at the beginning of COVID, how industry and government and Payments Canada kind of came together with a single objective of driving up the digital adoption of government payments. And it's amazing. It was hugely successful in achieving that objective in a very short period of time, which to me really, really demonstrates what's possible when there's goal alignment and there's ambition to solve a problem. This group has demonstrated time and time again that we can get it done. So the collaboration doesn't stop here. This is just, again, the beginning. There's a lot more ahead of us, and I'm very happy to be part of it.
Thank you for that, Derek. So
I would like to echo my colleagues' comments. We're on a journey, and this is a little stopping area on a much longer journey that will take us several years to complete. I absolutely celebrate the high level of cooperation. I just think about industry testing for a minute. I know it's plumbing, but it's relevant because we are working with our colleagues day in and day out to make sure that everybody's system's working. And I'm mindful of one of our financial sector partners when we needed some help from somebody to test a particular transaction. They didn't need to help us, but they moved heaven and earth to allow us to do testing with them off cycle for a unique set of circumstances that allowed us to achieve. And that kind of camaraderie and collaboration exists. And that's why we are succeeding as we are. I firmly believe that. Where I'd like to see more relates to your first question to me, David, which was around the lack of overlays. And I would like us to more proactively have courage and embrace how we could be thinking about partnerships and take us out of our comfort zone around our traditional risk management frameworks and start to think that another dimension of change management is actually the partnership model. And how do we get a little braver by putting our toes in the water more and embracing other members of the ecosystem to bring value to our customer, and in our case, our customer's customer. To me, we could be expanding who we're collaborating and cooperating with at a more rapid pace, even if it's in proofs of concept or sandboxing. We've all got to get there. We all know what's coming. How do we accelerate it forward in a productive way so that all members of the ecosystem can see value?
That's really interesting. Thank you very much for that, Sue. Unfortunately, we're now out of time. I'd just like to say to Martin, Derek, and the dog barking in the background, thank you very much for the insights. Looking forward to continuing this conversation. I think we are, as you say, on the cusp of some really interesting, innovative solutions that we can bring to the market. And really appreciate your time this afternoon. And thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.